To escape my psycho contract wife and a $10 million deal, I faked my own death 2 years ago and have been living the good life ever since. So of course I'd run into her, or someone who looked just like her, while cruising the mall. That same night, my best friend and I had just ordered the premium package at Eden Spa and Lounge when I stepped out to use the restroom. The next thing I knew, I was being tied up. She used her belt to strap me to the bed. Isabelle Thorne pushed the door open, her eyes gleaming with a familiar, terrifying madness. "My dear husband," she purred, "didn't you die 2 years ago?" A slow, dangerous smile spread across her lips. "Did you have an extra life, honey?" She leaned in close, her voice a venomous whisper. "You've been a very bad boy, trying to leave me again." For the next 2 weeks, she was insatiable, clinging to me, demanding every last drop of my energy. My body was giving out, but she'd just bring me a bowl of some foul-smelling herbal concoction. "Be a good boy," she'd say. "Drink up so we can continue. My name is Leo Miller. 5 years ago, I died in an accident." Of course, the person who died was the old Leo. The Leo who, for a 5-year, $10 million marriage contract, had to play the part of doting husband to Isabelle Thorne. God only knows how I survived those 5 years. Isabelle Thorne. Just her name is enough to send a shiver down my spine. The second that contract expired, I took the money, enough to set me up for life, and ran without a backward glance. Faking my death was the only surefire way I could think of to get away from her for good. It's been 2 years, and for 2 years, I've been living it up in Portland. With over $10 million in the bank, the daily interest alone was more than enough to cover my every whim. I moved my only family, my sister, Sarah, and my adorable little niece, Lily, out from our hometown to live with me. I bought a house in the best school district, even though Lily was just starting preschool. And my best friend, Derek Jones, the guy I'd been getting into trouble with since we were kids, I put up the cash, he put in the work, and we bought up the franchise rights for a bunch of Amazon delivery stations across the city. We were the silent partners, just checking the daily reports and raking in the cash. In Derek's words, "Leo, man, you're my hero. You're a walking ATM." Tonight, Derek and I were at a dive bar, grabbing beers and wings. He mumbled around a chicken bone, "I gotta hand it to you, Leo. I really thought you were a goner, that you'd actually fallen for her." 5 years playing bodyguard and lapdog to an ice queen like Isabelle Thorne, day in and day out. He took a huge swig of his beer and burped. "So you were just playing a long game, huh? A 5-year undercover mission to scam the rich girl and run off with the cash. I honestly thought you were a willing simp, that you'd gone soft, totally whipped." Derek slapped me on the back so hard, I almost choked on a wing. I knew it. My boy wouldn't be some spineless pushover. I washed the wing down with some cold beer, a bitter smile on my face. "Simp? Whipped? You think I wanted any of that? Only I know what it took to survive those 5 years," I said. "That woman, Isabelle, man, it's a long story. Anyway, the money's in the bank, I'm free. The rest of it? Let's not even talk about it. This life, right now, was the one I wanted." When I got home, Sarah had a hot meal waiting. "Leo, you're back. Wash up, dinner's ready. I made your favorite barbecue ribs." "Uncle Leo." My niece, Lily, shot across the room like a tiny cannonball and latched on my leg. I laughed, scooping her up and planting a kiss on her cheek. "Were you a good girl at preschool today?" Lily was the bestest. My parents died when I was young. It was Sarah who raised me, who put me through college. She was more of a mother to me than a sister. Later on, she married the wrong guy, and they divorced not long after Lily was born, leaving her with some health problems and a broken heart. Bringing them to Portland was my way of giving them the good life they deserved. My family is the most precious thing in the world to me. No one's gonna mess with that. At the dinner table, Lily was chewing on her fork, her big eyes blinking up at me. "Uncle Leo, that wife you had before, was she really, really mean? Is that why you had to die and run away?" Sarah gently tapped her hand. "Lily, don't say things like that." I tweaked her little nose and smiled. What do little kids know? Uncle Leo had to go save the world. I defeated the big, bad monster, and now I'm back. "Oh, so you're a superhero." Seeing her innocent smile warmed my heart. Still, for some reason, even though life felt like a dream, a deep, unshakable unease lingered somewhere inside me, especially when I heard the name Isabelle Thorne. It was like a curse etched into my bones. I shook my head, pushing the thought away. Impossible. There was no way she could find me. Portland was a big city, and I had a new identity. Later that evening, I was pushing Lily on the swings of the neighborhood park. The setting sun cast a golden glow on her happy face, her laughter like tinkling silver bells. Watching her, a sense of peace washed over me. This life was paradise. The weekend was bright and sunny. Humming a tune, I drove my new SUV, with my precious niece Lily strapped in her car seat, straight to the biggest shopping mall in Portland. Uncle Leo, I want that one. And that one. The little tyke pointed her finger at the dazzling billboards outside, her face flushed with excitement. Whatever she wants, she gets. The toy section, the newest Barbie Dreamhouse set. Check. The snack aisle, her favorite imported chocolates, fruit gummies, and chips. Swept them all into the cart. The kids' clothing department, princess dresses, athletic sets, a few of each. Lily hugged a mountain of her spoils, her eyes squeezed shut in a grin, looking like a little fox who just raided the henhouse. Thank you, Uncle Leo. You're the best. You little charmer. I laughed, tweaking her nose. This was the life. Comfortable, free, with my favorite people by my side. We passed a luxuriously decorated high-end watch boutique. I didn't plan on looking. I've been dragged to places like this with Isabelle more times than I could count and was sick of them. But then, a flicker of movement in my peripheral vision. A figure at the counter. A dark dress, cinched at an impossibly thin waist. Her makeup was exquisite but gave her face a pale, almost sickly pallor, with a slash of dark red lipstick that stood out. She was leaning slightly, looking down at the watches in the glass case. The profile of her face. My heart skipped a beat. Isabelle? What was she doing here? Wasn't she supposed to be in New York, ruling over her cold, corporate empire like the ice queen she was? My feet stopped moving before my brain could catch up. The woman seemed to sense my stare. She slowly lifted her head and looked in my direction. Our eyes met. Boom! Something exploded in my head. Those eyes as cold and distant as ever. But now they held a hint of something I couldn't place, a deep weariness, and melancholy. I'd recognize her if she was a ghost. Isabelle. She was really in Portland. My blood turned to ice, and my hands grew clammy. She saw me, but just for a second, maybe less. She turned her head away, just as calmly, her attention returning to the watches as if I were nothing more than a random stranger. No, wait, that wasn't right. The old Isabelle hated dark clothes. Her closet, aside from her black power suits, was filled with light, cheerful colors, and she never wore makeup like this. This decadent, almost tragic look. Her whole vibe was different. The old Isabelle was an untouchable ice queen, radiating an arrogance that pushed everyone away. This woman in front of me was more like a black tulip, blooming silently in the dead of night, tinged with a hint of despair. I had to be mistaken. Yes, that was it. Just a look-alike. Portland is a big city. It's full of people who look like other people. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. Uncle Leo, Lily whispered, tugging on my jacket. She looked from me to the woman in the store, her big eyes wide with curiosity. That lady is so pretty. She lowered her voice. But why does she look so sad? Does she want to watch, but doesn't have any money? The innocent words of a child were like a needle, pricking at my frayed nerves. Sad? Isabelle Thorne could be sad? I thought she was always serene, always in control of everything. Lily, you're seeing things? That lady is very happy. I managed a weak smile, pulling Lily's hand. Let's go look at more toys. How about Uncle Leo buys you a remote control car? Yay, a child's attention is easily diverted. I practically fled the store, dragging Lily with me. But my heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, heavy and tight. That look in her eyes, that familiarity that felt etched into my very soul. It couldn't be faked. If it really was her, why was she in Portland? A coincidence? Or, I didn't dare think about it. I wanted them all with Lily for a while longer, buying a few more things, but my mind was elsewhere. That figure, that look was burned into my memory. Finally, we left the mall. In the parking garage, I loaded the bags into the trunk and buckled Lily into her car seat. I started the car and pulled out of the parking spot. Instinctively, I glanced at the rearview mirror. Nothing out of the ordinary. I was just being paranoid. Yeah, that had to be it. Back home, I couldn't get the image of that woman from the luxury watch store out of my head. The more I thought about it, the more I was convinced it was her, yet the more I tried to convince myself it wasn't. Isabelle. The name was like a splinter under my skin, a dull, persistent ache. I shook my head. Forget it. Life was too good right now to torment myself with ghosts from the past. I just showered and changed into some comfy sweats, ready to crash on the sofa and scroll through TikTok when my phone rang. It was Derek. Leo. Dude, you up for a night out? Old spot, Eden Spa. My treat. Let's get those kinks worked out. Derek's voice was as loud and obnoxious as ever. Eden Spa. I hesitated. We've been there a bunch over the last 2 years. It really was a great place to unwind. The anxiety from earlier hadn't completely faded. Maybe a change of scenery was exactly what I needed to shake it off for good. All right, I'm on my way. That's my boy. Hurry up, I'm already downstairs. I hung up, threw on a jacket, told Sarah I was stepping out for a bit, and flew down the stairs. A flashy red sports car was parked at the curb. Derek was leaning against it, an unlit cigarette dangling from his lips. He gave me a knowing smirk. "Let's roll, Leo. Tonight, you're going to experience what heaven on earth feels like." We sped through the city and arrived at Eden Spa and Lounge. The entrance was all gold and glitter, with a line of hostesses in slinky dresses welcoming guests. Derek slung an arm around my shoulder and swaggered in. The manager saw him and immediately came over, his face beaming. "Mr. Jones, Mr. Miller, it's been a while. Welcome, welcome, please come in." Derek waved a hand dismissively, all swagger. "The usual, the 888 package. And give me Tiffany, number 38. He clapped me on the shoulder. "What about you, Leo?" "Same package," I said, not wanting to think about it. "My usual, Chloe, number 24. Right away. Gentlemen, please head upstairs." "Your rooms are ready," the manager said, bowing as he led us up. Derek and I got adjoining private rooms. We settled onto the plush massage tables, and soon our masseuses came in with basins of hot water. Chloe, number 24, was a quiet young woman, but her technique was masterful. As my feet soaked in the hot water, she worked on my shoulders and neck with the perfect amount of pressure. The soundproofing between our rooms wasn't great. I could faintly hear Derek bragging next door. And let me tell you, I just locked down another delivery zone. It'll pay for itself by next month. I couldn't help but smile. Same old Derek. As I enjoyed the professional service, the day's anxieties and that unnameable dread began to dissolve in the steam and the soothing massage. I was finally starting to relax. Man, every guy needs an escape like this. Just as I was about to drift off to sleep, a sudden urge hit me. Damn it. Must have been that big bowl of soup Sarah made for dinner. "Chloe, give me a minute. I need to use the restroom," I said, sitting up. I yelled to the next room. "Derek, I'm hitting the head. Go for it, man. Need to take a piss already?" "What? Not taking your supplements." Derek hollered back. I laughed and cursed at him under my breath as I shuffled out of the room in a pair of spa slippers. The public restroom at Eden was as luxurious as the rest of the place, spotlessly clean. After finishing my business, I went to the sink. The cool water felt good on my hands. I shook them dry and glanced at my reflection in the mirror, a bit tired but mostly relaxed. Just as I turned to head back to my room, without any warning, a sharp, violent pain exploded at the back of my neck. It felt like I'd been hit with a lead pipe. My vision went black. I didn't even have time to make a sound before my body went limp and the world faded away. In the next room, Derek was still spinning tales for Tiffany. "And once I make enough money, I'm going to buy a private island, an everyday isle." After a while, he realized something was off. Did Leo fall into the toilet or something? What's taking him so long? He pulled out his phone and called me. "We're sorry. The person you are calling is not available at the moment." Derek frowned, a bad feeling creeping in his gut. "Shit, you don't think something happened, do you?" He shot up from the massage table, not even bothering to explain to the masseuse, and rushed out in his slippers. "Leo, Leo," he yelled. No answer. The restroom was empty. The hallway was quiet. He first called my sister, Sarah, and casually asked if I had come home. Then he told her that I had to leave town for a while to check on some business opportunities in a nearby city. My head was killing me. It felt like someone had taken a hammer to it. I forced my eyes open. Everything was blurry. As my vision cleared, my blood ran cold. Where the hell was I? A strange ceiling, with an opulent but oppressively styled crystal chandelier. I tried to move, but something cold was clamped around my wrists. I looked down. Holy shit. My wrists were shackled with metal cuffs, chained to the headboard of a bed. My ankles, too. Cold. Hard. I was tied to a huge, unfamiliar bed. What the hell was going on? Was this some kind of next-level shakedown? Did that idiot Derek sell me out? No, he didn't have the guts or the brains for something like this. The room was luxurious, but decorated in dark, somber tones that gave it a creepy vibe, and there was a smell in the air. A goddamn familiar perfume. Every hair on my body stood on end. I'd know that scent anywhere. Isabelle. It was her custom-made perfume, the only one of its kind in the world. My heart started hammering against my ribs, so hard I thought it would burst down my throat. No, it couldn't be. How could she? I was at Eden Spa. I just went to the restroom. A series of terrifying thoughts exploded in my mind, making my scalp tingle. I'm toast. Game over. This woman, she was even crazier than I remembered. As my mind raced, trying to figure a way out of these damn shackles, the door clicked open. Click. Then came a sharp, crisp sound of high heels on the floor. Click. Clack. Slow, deliberate steps, like the Grim Reaper approaching, each one landing squarely on my beating heart. A figure appeared in the doorway. It was the same dark dress from the mall, the same exquisite makeup with its sickly pale cast. Isabelle. Her face was blank as she stared at me, her eyes as cold as ever, but deep within them, I saw a flicker of something I couldn't comprehend, a terrifying madness. "My dear husband," she began, her voice chillingly calm. "Didn't you die in a car crash 2 years ago?" She paused, the corner of her mouth twitching into a bizarre smile. "What's this? Did you have a respawn token? What the hell? Why did that line sound so familiar?" She walked toward me, step by step, the sound of her heels getting closer, the pressure in the room building. I could smell that familiar perfume, a scent that now filled me with absolute dread. She stopped at the bedside, looking down at me like I was a prized possession she'd just recovered. Then, she did something that made my jaw drop. She unbuckled the expensive-looking leather belt from her waist. And with that belt, she began to bind my upper body, wrapping it around and around, tying me tightly to the headboard. The position. A wave of intense humiliation washed over me. "You've been a very bad boy, honey," she whispered, leaning over me. Her cool hair brushed against my face, her warm breath ghosting over my ear. "Did you really think you could leave me all alone again?" Her voice was a strange mix of hurt, obsession, and a sick, twisted kind of love. Then, she pressed her whole body against mine. She kissed me, touched me, with a desperate, frantic energy, as if she wanted to meld me into her very bones so we could never be separated again. I was so screwed. The lamb had walked right back into the lion's den. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a life worse than a dog's. Oh wait, no, it was a life of being served hand and foot, a prisoner's life. She treated me like her exclusive property. Every day, she found new ways to torment me. My body was deteriorating at a visible rate. I felt completely hollowed out, and every time I felt like I was about to ascend to the heavens, she'd bring me all sorts of expensive supplements. Ginseng, deer antler, sea cucumber, abalone, you name it. She even made soups with her own hands. She would feed them to me gently, spoonful by spoonful, sometimes even mouth to mouth. Then, once I had regained a sliver of strength, she would start a new round of draining me dry. What the hell was this? The carrot and the stick? No, this was torture wrapped in a sweet package. I felt like I was on the verge of a complete mental breakdown. What the hell kind of life was this? In this opulent cage, a room that screamed luxury and depression in equal measure, I lived the life I'd always dreamed of. Oh, who was I kidding? I was a well-fed pig being fattened for the slaughter. Every day, Isabelle would appear right on schedule. She'd cook herself, using ingredients I'd only ever seen in Michelin-star restaurants, turning them into exquisite dishes. Then she'd sit by the bed and feed me, bite by bite, like I was a toddler. To be honest, the food was incredible, but it was hard to enjoy it when you were ignoring the cold metal shackles on your wrists and ankles and her burning, possessive eyes that never once left me. "Open up, honey." Her voice was soft with a subtle raspiness. What could I do? Did I dare refuse? Sometimes, she must have gotten bored with the routine. She'd come in with a bowl of warm soup or carefully prepared porridge. "It's hot. Let me cool it for you." Then she'd take a sip herself, lean down, and feed it to me with her soft lips, mouth to mouth. Holy crap. The first time she did that, I froze completely. My brain buzzed so loud, I thought I was going to short circuit. The warm contact, the undisguised amusement in her eyes mixed with that suffocating possessiveness filled me with a cocktail of extreme shame and a strange, rising panic. This woman knew exactly how to torture someone. A double assault, physical and psychological. "Where were you planning to run this time?" She'd ask in a tone so gentle it was terrifying, all while dabbing the corner of my mouth with a silk napkin. Her voice was like a lover's whisper, but it held an iron grip of control. "My husband," she added, drawing out the words. "Where could I run? I was tied up like a Thanksgiving turkey." Oh, right, we'd graduated to a twisted feeding ritual now. One time, she seemed to be in a particularly good mood, humming a tuneless little song. She pulled a small, bright red booklet from her designer handbag and dangled it in front of my face. The garish red almost blinded me. A marriage certificate. "You can't abandon me again," she said, smiling like a cat that had just cornered a mouse. "We're a legally married couple." I looked at the certificate, then at her. Well, that's it. I was officially locked down by the law. This went on for a month. I felt completely drained, both physically and mentally, teetering on the edge of a breakdown. Just when I thought I was going to be played or nurtured to death, Isabelle walked into the room holding a single sheet of paper. Her expression was a complicated mix of joy, anxiety, and a hint of confusion. "Honey," she said, holding the paper out for me to see. Her voice trembled almost imperceptibly. I'm pregnant. A bolt from the blue. I stared at the positive marker on the lab report, and my brain completely shut down. Pregnant? With whose? Oh, who else could it be? For the past month, what else had I done besides being pinned to this bed and ravaged by her? I watched her instinctively place a hand over her stomach, which was still flat. Or maybe I was just seeing things. But I was stunned, utterly stunned. She was pregnant, and the first thing she did was unlock the shackles on my wrists and ankles. From now on, you can move freely around the room, she said calmly, as if it were the most insignificant thing in the world. What was I being promoted because of the baby? I'd earned a fraction of my freedom because of a little clump of cells in her belly. But what kind of freedom was this, really? I looked at her, then down at my wrists, still red and chafed from the cuffs. Run? She was pregnant with my child. As much of a screw-up as I was, I couldn't just abandon my kid, even if the mother was a little intense. Don't run? What other choice did I have? For now, I have to play along, let her call the shots. I couldn't just walk away from this. I couldn't be that guy. The bone-deep exhaustion hadn't faded, but now there was a new variable in the equation. That little clump of cells in her belly was my only get-out-of-jail-free card. Or maybe it was just a new, more permanent set of chains. I cleared my throat, which felt rough from disuse. Besides a few grunts and moans here and there, I hadn't said much in a month. Why did you come to Portland? Don't tell me. You came here looking for me. I asked, though I already knew the answer. With her level of crazy, coincidence wasn't in her vocabulary. Isabelle was standing in front of the mirror, methodically smoothing out the wrinkles in her dark dress. She paused at my question. Through the reflection, I saw her face shift back to that familiar, aloof expression of superiority, as if the woman who'd been clinging to me moments before was just a figment of my imagination. A year ago, the business in New York was mostly stabilized, she said, her voice flat, as if she were discussing a quarterly report. She turned around. I found that city held too many heavy memories. She walked to the window, gazing out at the bustling Portland cityscape. Portland has nice scenery, the air is clean. I came here for a change of pace and to scout for potential investments. I was thinking of relocating. She said it so convincingly, I almost believed her. If I hadn't just been freed from her bed, that is. And that day at the mall, I pressed. Seeing you at the mall was a complete coincidence. She finally looked at me, a cryptic smile playing on her lips. And then, well, that led to this series of events. She said it so casually, as if kidnapping me, imprisoning me, and driving me to the brink of insanity were just the logical next steps in a story that started with an accident. I wanted to thank her and her entire goddamn family for this exciting story. Honey, she suddenly switched gears, stepping close and tapping a finger on my chest. That familiar, suffocatingly possessive aura was back. You've been a bad boy. She tilted her head, her eyes filled with a theatrical pout and a thick, syrupy jealousy. You have a beautiful, devoted wife right here, working so hard to continue your family line. So why did you have to go to a place like Eden Spa? To find those sleazy, trashy women. She spat out the word women like it was poison, as if I had committed some unforgivable crime. I was losing my mind. Derek and I went for a massage, and, in her world, that translated to finding trashy women. Sleazy? The masseuse was just doing her job. I tried to explain that it was a completely platonic therapeutic massage, but she didn't give me a chance. Her red lips crashed onto mine. Another dizzying, unspeakable scene unfolded. It was like she was trying to brand her jealousy and possessiveness onto my very soul. Afterward, I lay sprawled on the bed, feeling like a puddle of goo. My back ached. This was more exhausting than my old construction jobs. All right, I gasped, holding on my hands in surrender. You're pregnant with my child now. I won't run. Okay. If I tried to run again, I was pretty sure she'd hunt me to the ends of the earth and punish me in some even more twisted way. I give up. Isabelle seemed pleased with my surrender. A triumphant smile played on her lips as she gently stroked her still flat stomach. But I took a deep breath, sensing this was my only chance to gain a sliver of control. I need to take you to meet someone. She's very important to me. She's my family. My real family. The smile on Isabelle's face faded slightly. A flicker of suspicion and scrutiny crossed her eyes. Oh, she raised an eyebrow, her icy demeanor returning. What kind of family? Fine, she nodded, a playful yet subtly tense look in her eyes. I'd love to see. The drive was tense. Isabelle sat in the passenger seat, her eyes darting toward me every so often, filled with suspicion. Who are we going to see? She finally asked, her voice flat and emotionless. I told you. The most important person in my life. I didn't want to explain further. She wouldn't believe me anyway. I pulled up to my sister's apartment complex and took a deep breath, feeling like I was heading into battle. This was the first time since my resurrection that I was introducing her to my only family. My sister, Sarah, and my adorable niece, Lily. I had no idea what kind of fresh hell Isabelle was about to unleash, but I had to face it. I knocked on the door. A sweet, childish voice chirped from inside. "Who is it?" The door opened, and Sarah was standing there, holding Lily's hand. The sound of cartoons echoed from the living room. "Uncle Leo, you're finally back." Lily let go of her mom's hand and launched herself at me like a tiny missile, hugging my leg tightly. "Hey, my little munchkin." I laughed and bent down to pick her up. Just then, "Leo," a shriek so sharp it could have shattered glass erupted from behind me. I froze. Oh no. Isabelle stood behind me, her face not just pale, but a sickly, mottled red. Her beautiful eyes were blazing with a furious, insane fire, locked on my sister and Lily. Lily's cheerful Uncle Leo had been the spark that ignited the powder keg. "You're keeping another woman," she screamed, her finger trembling as she pointed at Sarah. "And you have a daughter this old with her." Her gaze shifted to a terrified Lily, who was now hiding behind Sarah's legs. "And you have the audacity to show them off to me?" What the hell? What kind of twisted soap opera was playing out in her head? My sister Sarah was stunned by the sudden onslaught, instinctively pulling Lily behind her as she stared warily at Isabelle. "You are." "I'm his wife," Isabelle shrieked, cutting her off. Then, like a woman possessed, she lunged towards Sarah and Lily. "You little bastard. I'll kill you," she screamed, reaching for Lily. Sarah was frozen in terror, clutching Lily as she stumbled backward. Lily let out a piercing wail, the sound echoing through the small apartment. "Isabelle, stop it." I snapped out of my shock and lunged forward, grabbing her around the waist from behind. "Are you insane?" She struggled wildly in my arms, her strength surprising. "Let go of me. Leo, you liar. How could you lie to me?" she shrieked. "I'm going to kill them. I'll kill them both." The scene was pure chaos. Sarah, trying to comfort a sobbing Lily, looked at me and this lunatic with wide, terrified eyes. "Leo, what? What is going on?" she stammered. "I wished I knew." "Calm down." I gritted my teeth, dragging the struggling Isabelle away into a corner. She was still fighting, her eyes bloodshot, like a cornered lioness. I couldn't take it anymore. I lowered my voice to a furious hiss. "Look closely. That's my sister. Sarah, she raised me. She's like a mother to me. And that's not my daughter. That's my niece. My sister's daughter. My niece." My furious shouting seemed to finally penetrate the fog of jealousy and rage in her brain. Isabelle's struggles ceased. She froze. She stared at me in disbelief, then whipped her head around to look at my sister, who was still trying to soothe a crying Lily. The series of expressions that crossed her face was something to behold. It went from pure rage to shock to confusion, and finally to a dawning, creeping horror. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. She seemed to finally realize that she had just made a colossal, universe-shattering mistake. The air went dead silent, broken only by Lily's heartbroken sobs. My furious declaration that Lily was my niece was like a bucket of ice water dumped over Isabelle's raging fire. She froze solid. Her eyes were wide, darting from me to my sister, who was still comforting a traumatized Lily. "Your sister?" Her voice trembled, all the ferocity for moments before completely gone. The color drained from her face, leaving it whiter than her usual pale makeup. She finally, maybe sort of understood the magnitude of her screw-up. My sister, still bewildered, clutched Lily and watched Isabelle with wary eyes. The next thing Isabelle did almost made my eyes pop out of my head. She suddenly spun around, faced my sister, and executed a perfect 90-degree bow. It was so formal it looked like something out of a textbook. "Sister, I am so sorry." Her voice was loud, laced with a sob, and dripping with flattery. "I'm misunderstood. I'm a horrible person. I'm blind. I should be struck down." "Me?" "My sister." Lily was so startled by the outburst that her crying hitched for a second. This woman's ability to switch gears was faster than a Formula One car. After the apology, she straightened up and saw Lily still sniffling in Sarah's arms. Isabelle's face immediately broke into what was supposed to be a warm, friendly smile. She cautiously crouched down, trying to get closer. "Sweetie, don't cry, don't cry. Auntie didn't mean it. Auntie is sorry, okay?" She reached out to pat Lily's head. Lily recoiled, burying her face in Sarah's side and shaking her little head violently. "Wah, bad lady. Mommy, bad lady." Isabelle's outstretched hand froze midair, the smile stiffening on her face. She looked utterly lost, sweat beading on her forehead as she glanced at me desperately. That look on her face was like a lost puppy begging for help. "Leo," she pleaded, her voice laced with a panic she probably didn't even recognize in herself. "What could I do? I was pretty desperate myself." Lily, sweetie, it's okay. This is Uncle Leo's friend." My explanation sounded pathetic even to my own ears. Isabelle's eyes darted around, and a light bulb seemed to go off. She shot up and fumbled in her ridiculously expensive handbag, pulling out a sleek black credit card. "Sister Lily, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." She tried to shove the card into my sister's hand. "Please, whatever you need, whatever you want, just buy it. It's on me. Consider it my apology." Sarah, completely flustered, waved her hands frantically. No, we can't accept this. We don't need anything." "Yes, you do. You must," Isabelle insisted, absolutely certain. "What toys does Lily like? Barbies? Legos? A Disney princess dress? Annie will buy them all for you. And you, sister, what kind of handbag do you like? What jewelry? I'll have it delivered to your door." She sounded like a lottery winner on a frantic spending spree, desperate to flash her wealth. Watching her try to bury us in consumer goods, I felt a vain throb in my forehead. This woman's solution to every problem was so infuriatingly simple. Throw money at it. But Sarah was a reasonable person. Seeing Isabelle's sincere attitude, and noticing the way she instinctively protected her stomach, and after my brief, mumbled explanation, she seemed to grasp the situation. Her anger subsided, replaced by an expression of pure, exasperated bewilderment as she looked between me and Isabelle. "Leo, what on earth is going on?" Sarah whispered, her voice full of helpless confusion. "How could I possibly explain?" "Yeah, sis, this is your future sister-in-law. She's a bit unhinged, wildly possessive, and also pregnant with my child. Sarah would probably kick me out on the spot. It's a misunderstanding. All a misunderstanding was all I could manage." At dinner time, to further demonstrate her sincerity, Isabelle actually offered to help in the kitchen. Sarah and I exchanged a look of profound shock and a deep, shared sense of foreboding. And we were right to be worried. The great Isabelle Thorne, a woman who could command boardrooms and sign nine-figure deals without blinking, was a complete disaster in the kitchen. She was like a tornado in a china shop. First, she knocked over the soy sauce, creating a sticky, brown lake on the countertop. Then, while chopping vegetables, she nearly sliced off her own finger instead of the cucumber. Sarah frantically supervised, tried to prevent her from burning the kitchen down. I leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching Isabelle, dressed in a designer gown but wearing my sister's kitschy floral apron, bumble around the kitchen. For a moment, it was almost funny, and it stirred something strange inside me. She finally emerged, proudly presenting a plate of something black and unrecognizable. Her face was smudged with flour, but she was grinning like a child seeking praise. "Leo, sister, try it. It's my first time cooking." Sarah and I stared at the dark matter on the plate, then at her expectant face. We shared a look of mutual suffering. It seemed that this powerful, domineering, and frankly psycho woman was, for my sake, actually willing to shed all of her pride and arrogance. She was trying, in her own clumsy way, to become a part of my life, my family, even if her methods were hard to stomach. In the end, Sarah had to cook a whole new meal, and even Isabelle had to admit, my sister's cooking was amazing. After that day, it was like Isabelle had installed a permanent homing beacon in my sister's apartment. "Leo, I'm hungry. Leo, I'm craving Sarah's sweet and sour pork today. Leo, Lily said she wants the strawberry cake I bought." The excuses were endless, but the goal was always the same: mooching a meal. She called it catering to the pregnant woman's palate and soaking in the warmth of a family. My sister, Sarah, went from being stunned and wary to just used to it. Sometimes, if Isabelle was running a little late, Sarah would even murmur, "I wonder why Isabelle isn't here yet." Of course, Isabelle didn't just eat. She would insist on washing the dishes, which usually resulted in a flooded kitchen floor. She tried to help Lily with arts and crafts, only to get more engrossed than Lily herself, making a complete mess of the materials. Watching her, dressed in a $1,000 dress and a $10 apron, causing chaos in the kitchen, I sometimes really wanted to pry open her head and see what was going on in there. As for Lily, she was completely won over by Isabelle's combination of checkbook diplomacy and genuine patience. Imported snacks became a daily staple, and limited edition Barbie dolls filled her toy corner. Whenever Isabelle arrived, Lily would trail after her like a little shadow. Annabelle, Was the little baby in your tummy good today? Annabelle, you know what? That mean boy at preschool was mean to me again. Isabelle would crouch down and listen intently to all of Lily's little stories, her eyes filled with a softness that could melt glaciers. It was a stark contrast to the predatory looks she gave me when we were alone. My sister watched the two of them, her initial anxiety replaced with amusement. You know, Leo, she told me quietly one day, take away the bossiness, and Isabelle is actually a pretty good person. Look at her. She really cares about Lily, and she never hesitates to buy us things. It's just that temper. It's like a firecracker, goes off at the slightest thing. What could I say? I just nodded in agreement. She was good to me, in her own way, the kind of good that involved wanting to keep me on a very, very short leash. But the good times couldn't last forever. Isabelle's morning sickness hit, and it hit hard. She was sick all the time, throwing up everything she ate. Her mood swings became legendary. One minute, she'd be smiling sweetly at Lily. The next, she'd be giving me the silent treatment because I looked at the TV for too long. I started Googling how to care for a pregnant woman. One night, at 3 a.m., she woke up craving a specific kind of donut from a cult favorite shop across town. Without a word, I got in the car and went. By the time I got back, she was asleep, but there was a faint smile on her lips. I'd massage her swollen calves, my technique clumsy and amateurish. She just hummed contentedly, her eyes closing like a cat being petted just right. Leo, harder. Did you even eat dinner? She complained, but her eyes held a soft glow I'd never seen before. A few times, late at night, she'd bury her head in my chest. Her voice would be muffled, tinged with a vulnerability she'd never admit to. I used to live in that huge house all by myself. It was so cold. Everyone was afraid of me. No one ever told me the truth. I thought you were dead. Those 2 years, She never finished the sentence, just held me tighter. In those moments, I suddenly felt that this impossible woman wasn't so bad after all. Derek, that jackass, finally got in touch. The second I answered, his booming voice filled my ear. Leo, where the hell have you been? I thought you'd been abducted by aliens. I gave him the condensed version. Isabelle's pregnancy, the imprisonment, the whole crazy story. The other end of the line was silent for a full 30 seconds. Then, he burst into thunderous, hyena-like laughter. Holy shit, Leo, you magnificent bastard. You played a triple agent and knocked her up in the process. The rich girl runs off with the baby. No, wait, the rich girl kidnaps the dad-to-be and runs off with the baby. Ha ha ha, you're a legend. So, did Isabelle really, drain you dry? Bro, I've got this old family remedy. I could hook you up. Listening to his crude jokes, I wanted to climb through the phone and punch him. Shut up. You're the one who needs it. Hey, don't be mad. Derek laughed slyly. Seriously, though, you got a kid on the way. You basically skipped all the hard parts and hit the jackpot. Why would you ever work again? Just stay home, be a stay-at-home dad, and let the rich wife support you. It's the dream. I didn't bother arguing. His brain operated on a different frequency, where morals were determined by looks and bank accounts. Later, the three of us, me, Isabelle, and my sister, ended up at a baby store together. The scene was surreal. Isabelle stared at the impossibly tiny clothes, shoes, and bottles, her eyes shining. This one's cute. Buy it. This fabric is soft. Buy it. This one is imported. It's better for the baby. I'll take them all. She looked like she was ready to buy the entire store. My sister stood beside her, looking exasperated. Isabelle, we don't need this one. That one's too small. The baby will outgrow it in a week. Isabelle just blinked, a docile expression on her face that said, I don't get it, but I'll listen to you. I watched her gently touch the soft little outfits. The anticipation and happiness on her face were undeniable. She was genuinely excited for this baby's arrival, and she was genuinely trying to be a good mom. A good wife? The jury was still out on that one. Life settled into a rhythm, and Isabelle's belly grew bigger by the day, like a balloon being steadily inflated. As her due date approached, the tension in the house grew thick. Me, the theoretical father-to-be, I was practically vibrating with anxiety. I spent my days flipping through parenting books, feeling like I understood every word individually, but the sentences themselves were complete gibberish. Leo, stop pacing. You're making me dizzy, my sister Sarah said, balancing a bowl of chicken soup in one hand while the other rested on her own lower back. As a veteran mom, she was the picture of calm. Isabelle, on the other hand, was calm in a completely different way. She was issuing orders. She'd send me on citywide scavenger hunts for specific foods, a breakfast burrito from a food truck in one neighborhood, an artisanal cupcake from another. One day, she decided she wanted to knit a sweater got the yarn into a tangled mess that looked like a spider's web, and then handed it off to my sister. I was pretty sure she was just using her pregnancy as an excuse to torment me, reveling in her privileges. Finally, on a sunny afternoon, she clutched her stomach, her face pale. "Leo, I think it's time." My brain went completely blank. All the what to do when labor starts information I'd memorized vanished in a thin air. Sarah, quick, it's happening." My sister was a whirlwind of efficiency, the pre-packed hospital bag already by the door. After a chaotic scramble, we got Isabelle to the hospital and into the delivery room. The red in delivery light flicked on, feeling like a crushing weight on my chest. I collapsed onto a bench in the hallway, my palms sweating. In that room was my wife and my child who I hadn't even met. Time crawled by, each second stretching into an eternity. Sarah patted my shoulder. "It'll be okay. Isabelle is strong, and we have the best doctors." I knew she was right, but I couldn't stop the dark thoughts from creeping in. What if? No, shut up. Don't jinx it. I don't know how much time passed. It could have been hours, or just a moment. The delivery room door opened. A nurse emerged, holding a tiny, swaddled bundle, a professional smile on her face. "Congratulations. Mother and daughter are both healthy. 6 pounds, 8 ounces. A beautiful little girl." I shot up from the bench, my legs feeling like jelly. Mother and daughter are healthy. A girl. The massive weight on my chest finally lifted. A wave of emotion hit me, and my eyes stung. I almost broke down, crying right there in the hallway. I followed the nurse to see the baby. She was a tiny, pink little bundle, her eyes squeezed shut, her little mouth making sucking motions. This was my daughter. My heart felt like it had been tickled by a tiny, soft hand, and it melted into a puddle. The nurse placed her in my arms. I stood there, stiff as a board, hardly daring to breathe, terrified I might break this fragile little doll. She was so small, so soft. It was over. I, Leo Miller, was destined to be wrapped around this little girl's finger for the rest of my life. A doting girl dad? Sign me up. In the recovery room, Isabelle lay on the bed, pale and beaded with sweat. But when she looked at our daughter in the bassinet, her eyes held a tenderness I had never seen before. It was a warmth that could melt icebergs. She reached out a finger and gently touched the baby's cheek, a weak but contented smile on her lips. "Leo, she looks like you." I looked at her, then at the baby, a storm of emotions swirling inside me. This woman, who had put me through hell, had just given me a daughter. "You did great," I managed to choke out. It was all I could think of to say. She didn't answer, just looked at me, her eyes filled with something complex and unreadable. When it came time to name her, we, for once, were in complete agreement. "Let's call her Noel," Isabelle said softly, gazing out the window. Noel. It felt right. A name that held the memory of our tumultuous story, a nod to the season of new beginnings, a promise of peace. It was her obsessive need for me, transformed into a quiet, hopeful prayer for our new family. The day we brought her home, Sarah and Lily were ecstatic. Sarah held little Noel, her eyes glistening. "This is wonderful. Our family is growing." Lily stood on her tiptoes, peering into the bassinet at her sleeping baby cousin. "Uncle Leo, Auntie Belle, the baby is so cute." She reached out a tiny finger to poke Noel's cheek, but Sarah gently intercepted her. "Be gentle, sweetie. The baby is very little." "Okay," Lily nodded seriously. "I'm going to be a good big cousin and protect her." Looking at everyone in the room, Sarah's loving smile, Lily's innocent promise, and Isabelle's tired but glowing profile, I suddenly felt like all the crazy, messed up stuff from the past didn't matter anymore. Right now, all I wanted was to protect this. I knew that with Isabelle's personality, our future wouldn't be completely peaceful. But so what? I could handle it. We could handle it. Life in Portland settled into a new routine, but a few weeks later, Isabelle dropped a bomb. "Leo, pack a bag. We're taking Noel to New York." I was in the middle of changing Noel's diaper. My hand slipped. "New York? What?" "My parents want to meet you. And their granddaughter." Her tone was matter-of-fact, but I could hear the unspoken command. That was her turf. Her father's turf. A few days later, we were on a private jet. I held Noel, watching the clouds drift by, my stomach doing backflips. This was way more nerve-wracking than that night at Eden Spa. The Thorne estate in New York was even more ridiculous than I'd imagined. As the ornate iron gates swung open, it felt like we were entering some kind of royal park. A man stood in the center of the grand foyer, radiating an aura of absolute power. He was impeccably dressed in a dark, tailored suit that screamed old money and authority. His hair was perfectly coiffed, and his eyes were sharp enough to pierce straight through you. This had to be your father, Harrison Thorne. He scanned me from head to toe, and I felt like I was undergoing an X-ray inspection. The air grew thick and heavy. Isabelle, however, was perfectly at ease. "Dad," she said, stepping forward to link her arm with his. "This is Leo, and this is Noel." Her voice held a hint of daughterly affection I'd never heard before. Wah, as if sensing the oppressive atmosphere. Or maybe she was just hungry. Noel's face crumpled, and she let out a piercing cry. The sound shattered the silence. Harrison Thorne's intense gaze instantly shifted from me to the baby in my arms. The stern lines of his face softened, melting away. "Oh, my sweet granddaughter, what's wrong?" he murmured, stepping forward to take her from my arms. His movements were surprisingly gentle. As he held her, Noel's crying subsided, and her tiny hand reached out to grasp his finger. A rare, almost stiff smile appeared on Harrison's face. That evening, the Thornes hosted a grand family dinner. And by dinner, I mean an event more lavish than any corporate gala I'd ever attended. A long, polished table was laden with exquisite food, surrounded by people who looked like they owned half the city. Isabelle, stunning in an elegant evening gown, had one arm linked with mine, the other cradling a sleeping Noel. She stood at the head of the table, her voice clear and confident. "Everyone, I'd like to formally introduce you," she announced, a regal calm about her. "This is my husband, Leo Miller." Her eyes met mine, a flash of pride, tenderness, and undisguised ownership in them. "And this is our daughter, Noel." The room buzzed with whispers and polite applause. One of the relatives, a woman dripping in diamonds, gave Isabelle a knowing smile. "Well, Isabelle, dear, it seems your persistence has finally paid off." Her tone was dripping with meaning. Isabelle just smiled serenely. Fate is a funny thing, isn't it? After dinner, Harrison summoned me to his study. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey. "Leo," he began, his voice smoother now. "Isabelle has always been a stubborn child. When she sets her mind to something, there's no stopping her." I nodded. He had no idea. "I hear you've started some small ventures in Portland." "Just a few things, enough to get by," I said modestly. "Have you ever considered working for the Thorne Group?" he asked, getting straight to the point. I froze. He was trying to recruit me. "Harrison," I said carefully, "I'm not a natural businessman. My only goal right now is to live a quiet life and take care of Isabelle and Noel." The Thorne Group was a shark tank. I'd be eaten alive. Harrison studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "I can respect that, as long as Isabelle is happy." When I left the study, Isabelle was waiting, holding Noel. "So, what did my father want?" she asked. "Just chatting." She smirked, not buying it for a second. "Honey," she whispered, leaning in close, a smug, triumphant glint in her eyes. "You're the family hero now. The man who finally tamed the dragon. You realize you can get away with anything, right?" I couldn't help but laugh. Even now, she couldn't resist getting the upper hand. But looking at the genuine joy in her eyes and the sleeping baby in her arms. "Fine, I could be the hero." Our trip to New York had one more stop. "Leo, tomorrow you're coming somewhere with me," Isabelle announced a day later, her expression neutral, but with that familiar, unsettling flicker in her eyes. My stomach dropped. What was she planning now? "Somewhere special. You'll see when we get there." The more cryptic she was, the more nervous I got. The next day, the car wound through a series of streets and finally stopped outside a heavily secured compound. High walls, barbed wire, and guards with stern faces at the gate. A psychiatric hospital? I was confused. Isabelle didn't say a word, just got out of the car, holding Noel, and walked straight in. I hurried after her, my mind racing. We passed through several locked doors and entered a visiting area. Through a thick pane of glass, I saw 2 people, and my blood ran cold. Cody Nash, Sienna Vance. I'd recognize those names even in my nightmares. They were the 2 lowlifes who... But the people in front of me now. Cody was wearing a loose-fitting patient's gown, his hair a mess, his eyes vacant. He was squatting in a corner, chewing on his own fingers with a disturbingly focused expression, drool dripping from his mouth. Sienna wasn't much better. Her hair was wild and unkempt. She was clutching a pillow, murmuring to the wall in a low, ghostly whisper. Holy hell, they were completely broken. All their past arrogance and scheming had vanished without a trace. They were just 2 shells of human beings. Isabelle's lips curled into a cold smile as she looked at the 2 figures behind the glass, as if they were insects. I just let them reap what they sowed, and they ended up like this. She said it so casually, but a chill ran down my spine. This woman, when she was ruthless, was truly ruthless. But damn, if it wasn't a little bit satisfying to see. Isabelle looked down at our daughter, Noel, who was blinking up at her, completely unaware. Isabelle's voice dropped to an unnervingly instructive tone. Noel, look closely at those two animals. They're bad people. They almost killed your father and me. She paused, her eyes growing colder, almost freezing. When you grow up, if you ever meet people like this, you don't have to be polite. Yell at them. Hit them. Make them understand what karma is. People like them should be dead. They're a waste of air. I felt my jaw twitch. Honey, our daughter is less than a month old. Isn't this a little intense for a life lesson? Telling her to hit people? She was really committed to her black and white view of the world. Looking at Cody and Sienna's pathetic state, and then hearing Isabelle's words, I suddenly understood. I understood her intense possessiveness. I understood why she became so obsessive, so unhinged after I died. She was protecting me, protecting us in her own way, even if that way sometimes made my back hurt. Leaving the hospital, the sunlight felt blinding. I took a deep breath, feeling a huge weight lift from my chest. The old grudges, the enemies who had once wanted me dead, had all gotten what they deserved. It was good. I turned to look at Isabelle. She was cooing at Noel, her profile softened by the sunlight. Maybe our future wouldn't be perfectly calm, but at least the darkest shadows had finally lifted. Me, her, and our daughter. We could finally, truly, start our new life. Returning to Portland from New York felt like coming home. Even the air seemed sweeter. Little Noel was getting chubbier by the day, and Isabelle's mood had improved dramatically. One afternoon, holding Noel, she said to me, Leo, let's have another wedding. I blinked. Huh. The first one didn't count, she said, her tone light but firm. That was a contract, a business deal, and it included your ridiculous plan to fake your own death. This is different now. She looked down at the sleeping baby in her arms, her eyes so soft they could turn stone to water. I want to give Noel a proper beginning, and I want to give us one too. Something shifted inside me. She was right. What we had before wasn't real. Okay, whatever you want. There was no massive, fairy tale wedding this time. Surprisingly, Isabelle wanted to keep it small. She said she only wanted the people closest to us to be there. So, it was just my sister Sarah, my niece Lily, and my screw-up but low when it counts best friend Derek. On Isabelle's side, it was just her parents and a few trusted friends. The venue was a small, charming chapel in Portland, sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows. Lily, in a little flower girl dress, was practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. Derek, looking uncomfortably handsome in a tailored suit, couldn't stop sneaking glances at the bridesmaids. Some things never change. My sister Sarah sat in the front row, her eyes glistening. I knew she was truly happy for me. When it came time to exchange vows, the pastor stood before us, his expression serene. My palms were sweating, but Isabelle suddenly took my hand. Hers was cool and slightly damp, too. We hadn't prepared any giant diamond rings. Isabelle said that cold, hard objects couldn't possibly represent our back-from-the-dead love story. Under the pastor's smiling gaze, we both reached out. My sister, holding the baby, brought her to us. Gently, carefully, we took our daughter, Noel, into our arms together. The little one was sound asleep, her tiny mouth making little sucking motions, completely oblivious that she was the star of the show. Noel. Isabelle's voice trembled almost imperceptibly. She is the most precious fruit of our love, the strongest bond in our marriage. I looked at her, then down at our daughter. My heart was full. Yes, I said, my voice a little hoarse. We'll spend our lives protecting her and protecting this family. The vows were short, but they carried the weight of a lifetime. In the pews, my sister was openly weeping with joy. Even Derek managed a rare moment of sincerity, clapping me on the shoulder. Leo, man, I'm happy for you. From now on, when your wife gives you hell, just remember to, well, take it like a man. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The Isabelle at the wedding was someone I'd never seen before. In her white dress, her face was free of its usual icy mask. In its place was the blush of a bride and the gentle warmth of a new mother. She held my hand tightly. Her eyes, which usually held storms, were now filled with nothing but pure happiness and a kind of peace I'd never seen in them before. It was as if a ship, long lost at sea, had finally found its harbor. The reception was simple, held in a small restaurant next to the chapel. The food was exquisite, and the company was warm. Laughter filled the room. Someone toasted to us, calling us the couple who came back from the dead, and Noel, the angel who brought the miracle. Isabelle just smiled, raised her glass, and drank. Her smile was so bright it was dazzling. After the wedding, life truly turned a new page. There were no more shocking plot twists, just the quiet, ordinary rhythm of daily life. Isabelle was still Isabelle. At work, she was the queen who could silence a boardroom with a single look. But at home, she were the silly cartoon print apron my sister bought her and fumble with the baby food maker. Sometimes, she'd get a sudden whim to cook for me. The results were always an adventure. But seeing her with a smudge of flour on her nose, waiting expectantly for my verdict, I'd always smile and say it was delicious. What can I say? I was completely hers. Noel grew and changed every day. From a little bundle who could only coo, she learned to roll over, to crawl, to babble dida and mama. Each tiny milestone filled our home with joy. Sarah was now the official baby care commander-in-chief, her experience making everything run smoothly. Lily became a devoted cousin sitter, running to find the baby the second she got home from school. Annie Sarah, was the baby a good eater today? Can I sing to her? Watching the two of them, their heads together, warmed my heart. The smile on my sister's face was more frequent now, too. Sometimes she'd watch our chaotic little family and wipe away a tear. I knew it was from relief and happiness. At our urging, she even started dressing up more, going out with old friends. Life had to move forward. As for Derek, he'd been acting suspiciously happy lately, always grinning at his phone. When I asked if he was seeing someone, he just gave me his usual spiel. A guy like me? I don't date. People date me. And Isabelle? Her little habit of checking up on me hadn't completely disappeared. But now, it felt more like flirting. Honey, what are you doing? Do you miss me and the baby? Her voice on the phone was soft and playful, a world away from the soul-crushing interrogations of the past. That $10 million I'd run off with? Isabelle waved a hand and declared she would scientifically manage it for me. Your money is my money, isn't it? She'd say with a raised eyebrow. More importantly, it's Noel's future college fund, wedding fund, and startup fund. Fine by me. She was my wife and the mother of my child. She could call the shots. One evening, after Noel was asleep, we were curled up on the sofa. She poked me in the side. Honey, that extra life you had, do you have any spares? She was joking, but there was a hint of seriousness in her eyes. What if I can't find you again someday? I laughed, pulling her and our daughter, sleeping in her bassinet nearby, into a tight hug. Don't worry, I said. This time, you couldn't get rid of me if you tried. I'm not going anywhere. She snuggled closer, purring like a contented cat. The evening sun streamed through the window, bathing the living room in a warm, golden light. I held my soft, precious daughter, Isabelle's arm linked with mine, her head on my shoulder. Sarah and Lily were nearby, whispering and laughing as they played with the newly awakened Noel. This, right here, was what peace felt like. I, Leo Miller, once thought my life had hit rock bottom. I'd even died once. I never imagined that on the other side of all that chaos, I would find this kind of happiness. It was worth it. Every crazy, terrifying moment. And this love, this warmth that I had fought so hard for, I would spend the rest of my life protecting it. My life had been one long, dark eclipse, but now it was finally full. The end.